Who says there's no Santa Claus? Most of us think our credit cards are Santa Claus, but don't be too sure about that.
Joy Eufema is like no other nurse you've ever met. At Harrisburg Hospital, while other nurses and doctors are preoccupied with saving patients' lives, she is preoccupied with preparing people for death.
I'm Joy.
Oh, hi. Nice to meet you.
Hi. Go right in and see your mom.
Okay.
I think human beings can take it.
Who is Willis Ritter? What manner of man is he? He has been chief federal judge in Utah for 27 years. And during that time, he has established a reputation as one of the most cantankerous and the most frequently overturned judge in the country. Criticism he sneers at, for he has told friends he intends to go on trying cases until they take me off the bench feet first. I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer. I'm Dan Ritter. In a moment, those stories and more tonight on 60 Minutes.
This portion of 60 Minutes is sponsored by
the Gulf Oil Corporation. Every day, around the world, 52,000 Gulf people meeting the challenge.
Federal judges. They are among the most powerful men in the nation. Their word is law, and the law is what they say it is. And once appointed, they can be removed only through impeachment and conviction for high crimes and misdemeanors. And that has happened just 4 times in the nation's history. But what if a federal judge is not corrupt? Instead, he turns erratic, tyrannical. That poses a constitutional dilemma. And the Attorney General of the United States has taken an unprecedented step to resolve one such case. U.S. Attorney General Griffin Bell has filed a petition to remove the chief federal judge of the state of Utah, Willis Ritter, from hearing any and all cases there involving the USA. In the petition, the U.S. Department of Justice says Ritter conducts his business in a way that brings the federal courts into disrespect, that Ritter is biased against the United States and its representatives, that Ritter conducts the business of his court in a manner which has destroyed public confidence in his ability to administer justice. So the U.S. wants him off their cases. Who is Willis Ritter? What manner of man is he? He has been chief federal judge in Utah for 27 years. And during that time, he has established a reputation as one of the most cantankerous and the most frequently overturned judge in the country. His decisions are overturned 3 times as often as any of his colleagues on the federal bench. You will not hear from him on this broadcast because he refuses public comment. He would not even approve our taking pictures of him. These were shot clandestinely. But you will hear a good deal of criticism of him. Criticism he sneers at, for he has told friends he intends to go on trying cases until they take me off the bench feet first.
He runs that court just like it's his own private kingdom, and all of the employees are his serfs or slaves, if you will, and he acts just like the little emperor in the overall setup.
Ritter chose attorney Verl Ritchie to be chief clerk of his court. Ritchie said that after 2 years, he'd had enough.
He's impulsive, and he does what he damn well pleases on the spot, and erratic. And he doesn't really want, if he doesn't agree with what really is the basic law of the land, he'd just ignore it. It's that simple.
Ignore the law?
Yes, sir.
In other words, I, Willis Ritter, I'm the law. What I say is the law.
Well, that's pretty close. Pretty close.
His critics point to his conduct in the Gary Gilmore episode as evidence of his erratic behavior. When civil liberties attorneys trying to stop Gary Gilmore's execution last year had just about given up hope, someone told the ACLU they ought to get Judge Ritter to intervene. They did. And he did. Even though the Supreme Court of the United States had previously refused to hear a similar request. It was no surprise when Ritter ordered the state of Utah to postpone the Gilmore execution. Nor was it a surprise when Ritter's decision was overturned within a few hours by the 10th Circuit Court in Denver.
I saw them coming across the street over there, and by the time they reached the corner, I made a decision to actually come and film them.
Right. Robert Greenwell is a cameraman for CBS affiliate KSL-TV in Salt Lake, a station owned by the Mormon Church. On the night before the Gilmore execution, he got the assignment of filming the judge on the way into the courthouse. He found out how unpredictable the judge can be.
Ritter said, turn that light off, get that light off me, I don't want to be filmed. By that time, I was in the sidewalk, down here, right here. And I said, well, I'm on the sidewalk, can't I film you from here? Ritter said, no, the court's building extends to the street.
Greenwell moved into the street and resumed filming.
And that made him furious, and he just yelled, confiscate that camera and arrest that man.
Here's the way the judge describes it. The judge and the U.S. Marshal were assaulted by Robert Greenwell. He was hiding like a thief in the night. That's you.
Right.
Next to the courthouse wall, in the darkness.
That's all bull.
The federal judge and two marshals were forced to fight their way into the courthouse door.
Complete bull.
What you're saying, in effect, is that Judge Ritter is a liar.
I am. I'm saying he's a pure liar.
That's theft. There was no reason or no law that backed him taking our camera.
Wait a minute. Lynn Packer is a reporter for KSL-TV. He's covered Judge Ritter's court for 6 years.
He just tailors the law the way he wants it. He conducts his court the way he wants to conduct it. He doesn't care what the rules are. If he wants to seize a camera, he seizes a camera.
Willis Ritter came to the federal bench in 1949. He was nominated by a Mormon Senator, Albert Thomas, and appointed by President Harry Truman. During the hearings leading to his confirmation, one former co-worker described him as arbitrary, tyrannical, arrogant, and abusive. His prejudices are so violent, his respect for others so lacking, his integrity so questionable, it was said, as to make him unfit for calm objectivity and absolute honesty. Nonetheless, the Senate confirmed him, and he has his defenders to explain. The young woman reflects their view.
He was one of the first people to come out in favor of Indian rights, in favor of minority rights, and in this area, you don't find much support of that.
Yes, and yet that, too, is a dichotomy.
Raymond Child was appointed by President Ford as U.S. Attorney for Utah. He was, in effect, the U.S. government's lawyer there.
He will allow a man to sit over in the county jail weeks and weeks, beyond 90 days, waiting for his time to come up for a trial, when all he has to do is call the case up. So you see, that man's civil rights are being grossly abused.
Before he took the job, Child says, he had heard Ritter could be tyrannical, arbitrary, but then he learned about it at first hand.
We had been preparing cases, filing cases, criminal matters, for many months and getting very little activity. But all of a sudden, in a panic situation, they were all put on the calendar at once. We were told on the 12th of December to be ready with every case on the 18th of December.
6 days' notice.
Yes, and at that time there was a United Airlines strike, and it was 1 week before Christmas. It was difficult to find witnesses who would come. I filed a written motion that the matter be continued to January 5th, the entire calendar. I got no response. On the 18th of December, we did go into court. We didn't have all of our witnesses there, and in those cases where we didn't have the witnesses present, the cases were dismissed.
Dismissed? All of those cases?
Threw them out.
Criminal cases?
Yes.
And that kind of thing goes on frequently, I take it, in Judge Ritter's court.
It isn't unusual.
On another occasion, Ritter simply set free 29 felony convicts because no attorney was present at their parole hearings. The judge has few friends. The U.S. Marshal is one of them. He is constantly by his side. Vicki Jolly is another. She's been his personal secretary for 2 years. While others in Judge Ritter's employ have been harassed or abused, Miss Jolly has received special favors. When she was off the job, intermittently for a total of 5 months, the judge ordered Clerk Verl Ritchie to see to it that she received her pay.
You paid her nonetheless? He said that I should do it, and that he would protect her and defend her to the heavens.
That he would protect and defend Vicki Jolly to the heavens?
That's correct.
Willis Ritter has lived in Utah for almost all the 79 years of his life. For most of the time he's been on the bench, he has lived alone in one room in a hotel across the street from the courthouse. He is said to be a lonely man, bad-tempered, increasingly embittered. Among the men the judge detests is the Republican Attorney General of Utah, Robert Hansen. When have you last sat down and talked to this man? You're the Attorney General of the state of Utah.
He won't talk to me.
Judge Ritter won't talk to the Attorney General of the state of Utah.
He won't talk to the Attorney General. No, there's no way that I can have a conference with him.
You have not practiced before Judge Ritter in almost 10 years now.
The obvious reason being that he personally does not like me, and whatever chance the state had would be totally lost were I to appear personally in that courtroom.
Hansen may be right. For years, he has publicly questioned Judge Ritter's integrity on the bench.
He has had lawyers trying cases in his court at the same time that they are either representing the judge personally or representing some family business interest that he had an interest in.
One firm Hansen named was Jones, Waldo, Holbrook, and McDonough, a prominent Salt Lake law firm. They wouldn't talk to us on the record, but we did find out they represented Judge Ritter in his fight to acquire some islands close by his 3 miles of Snake River waterfront property in Idaho. At the same time, they were representing other clients in Judge Ritter's court. And they come into Ritter's court, and you allege they get better treatment.
I believe they do.
Should not a judge under those circumstances disqualify himself from cases handled by lawyers who are representing him or his family in other courts, other cases?
I believe they should, and I believe most judges invariably would do that under those circumstances.
Fact is, though, that you, as Attorney General, hire some of those same lawyers to practice before Judge Ritter in his court. Why?
That's true, because I feel that we've got to protect the interest of the state of Utah. And if that means that we have to hire somebody who is going to get a fair hearing in his court, then so be it.
There's several large law firms in Salt Lake profiting by being friendly with the judge, by being Ritter's pets, so to speak. I've seen him coach attorneys on the side that he's obviously backing or in favor of and suggest that they introduce some kind of a document or ask a particular question in the course of the case. Just incredible. The guy completely lacks judicial temperament.
A few years ago, reporter Lynn Packer set out to write a book about Judge Ritter. He polled Salt Lake City attorneys to find out how they felt about the judge. The results of that poll?
Probably number 3 is the most enlightening question.
How would you characterize Judge Ritter's judicial temperament? Always fair, 5.8%. Usually fair, 9%. Occasionally biased, 23.9%. Usually biased, 49.3%. No response, 9.3%.
It's unbelievable. I mean, half of the attorneys surveyed thinking that he's usually biased.
The state of Utah last October, just days after the Justice Department in Washington filed its petition to have Judge Ritter removed from their cases, filed another petition asking that he be taken off cases involving the state of Utah.
Why? Well, they charge that Judge Ritter has so abused his authority in the courtroom that he has become a law unto himself. He has proved himself so prejudiced in cases involving both the state of Utah and the federal government that they just cannot get a fair trial in his court.
And in Washington, the House Judiciary Committee, which has for years been hearing about what is called a judicial nightmare in Utah, recently voted to add a 3rd federal judge in Ritter's territory.
They're just trying to further water down his influence, buy a little more time.
Ritter is now the 2nd oldest sitting federal judge in the country. He's been in and out of the hospital fighting a bout with cancer. When he heard of the House Committee's action in adding a 3rd judge to dilute his power, he fired off a steamy complaint to Washington, telling the Congress they were being misled by reports that his court was in bad shape. Such charges, he claims in a letter to Chairman Peter Odino of the House Judiciary Committee, such charges are part of a Mormon conspiracy to get him off the bench. The Mormon Church, that is the Mormon temple down there, the Mormon Church has taken over practically every other public office in Utah, he says. Now they want to get rid of me because I'm too liberal. Let me quote Judge Ritter. Malice, Mormonism, McCarthy-Nixon dirty tricks, and conspiracy to bring down a federal judge are written all over it by the extreme rightist elements in the Republican Party.
I'm sure that'll come as a surprise and an offense to the Solicitor General of the United States, the Attorney General of the United States, and the United States Attorney, Raymond Child, for this district, because
They were the ones that first took decisive action with respect to Judge Ritter with respect to recent developments. And I assure you, the Mormon Church was not behind that.
No spokesman for the Mormon Church would respond to Ritter's charges. We went back to reporter Lynn Packer, himself a Mormon. He says 2 of the Mormon Church's principal character assassins and muckrakers are its TV station and radio station, that's your outfit, and its daily scandal sheet, the Deseret News, known widely as the Deserted News. This is out of a letter that he writes to Chairman Rodino of the House Judiciary Committee.
I think that's just another good example that he has severe loss of contact with reality. Not only is the church not ordering its reporters to go after Ritter, I would say the converse is true. They're telling them to hold back.
The Mormon Church is telling reporters at the Deseret News and at KSL.
Well, I can speak for KSL. They've told us to hold back.
Hold back on covering Ritter?
Yeah.
Because?
Because they don't want to have the appearance of using their medium to get Ritter.
Question, Mr. Hanson. If a federal judge is not a good judge, how do you go about getting rid of him?
The resolution for impeachment. And that's, of course, the difficulty, because Congress is not going to grind to a halt to get rid of a 78-year-old judge who time alone will take care of rather soon.
For the past 6 months, we have urged Judge Ritter to talk for 60 minutes about the controversy in his court here in Utah. He has consistently refused, says it would be improper for a sitting judge to make a public comment. Finally, he granted us an informal audience, 3 hours worth. He reaffirmed his unwillingness to appear on a broadcast with his critics, scoundrels he called them, and worse. Above all, Judge Ritter made it absolutely clear he has no intention of stepping down.
A footnote. I would like to be able to report in some detail and in the judge's colorful language just what he told me in that informal audience. But about 10 minutes into our conversation, he said his remarks were off the record. And as we said earlier, a federal judge's word is law.
Saturday night, the accent is on entertainment with Super Night at the Super Bowl, starring Andy Williams, Paul Williams, and a star-studded lineup from New Orleans. Then, 1 week from today, it's the grand climax of the football season, Dallas versus Denver in Super Bowl 12. Stay tuned now for Comedy with Rhoda.